There was once a little boy, no older than 8. His eyes were always heavy, not because of sleep, but because of sorrow. Every evening, when other children played in the streets, laughing and chasing the sunlight, he walked alone, to a quiet place where laughter could not follow. It was the graveyard. Among the endless rows of stones, he would sit beside one particular grave. It was not just a piece of earth to him. It was where his entire world rested. His mother. He did not remember the last time he had seen her smile, but he remembered the warmth of her hands, the softness of her voice, and the way she used to tuck him into bed. And now, all of that was gone. The boy would bring with him a small flower every time, placing it gently on the cold stone. Sometimes, the flower was crushed in his tiny hands before it reached the grave, because his tears would fall on it, soaking its petals. He would whisper words that no one else could hear. "Mother, can you hear me? I miss you so much." The world around him never answered. The only sound was the rustling of the leaves, the distant cry of a crow, and the thumping of his own heart. People passed by, sometimes looking at him with pity, sometimes with indifference. But no one stopped. No one understood the weight this little boy carried. For a child, pain should be scraped knees or a broken toy. But for him, pain was losing the only person who ever loved him unconditionally. His father was absent. His relatives were busy. His neighbors barely noticed him. The boy was alone in a world that had no room for his grief. And yet, he kept coming back. Day after day, week after week, sitting by that grave as if waiting for an answer, as if waiting for the silence to break. Sometimes he would close his eyes and try to remember her face, but memory is cruel. With each passing day, her features became harder to recall. Was her smile this bright? Were her eyes this gentle? Was her voice this soft? The boy could not tell anymore, and that thought scared him more than anything else. "What if I forget you, Mother?" he whispered one evening. "What if you fade away from my heart?" His small fingers dug into the soil near the grave, clutching it as though holding her hand. He pressed his face against the earth, believing, hoping, praying that maybe, just maybe, if he held on tight enough, he would feel her warmth again. But all he felt was the cold. And yet, there was something about the graveyard that made him return. Something about the silence that felt less lonely than the world outside. Because at least here, he was close to her. At least here, he could speak his heart without fear of being ignored. The boy began to pour his stories into the wind. He would tell the grave about his day, about the games he wished he could play, about the friends he never had, about the hunger that sometimes kept him awake at night. Sometimes his voice trembled. Sometimes it broke into sobs. Sometimes he said nothing at all, sitting silently with tears rolling down his cheeks. The world thought he was just a lonely child talking to dirt. But in his little heart, he knew something greater. He knew he was not talking to nothing. He was talking to his mother. And in those moments, he believed she could hear him. One evening, as the sun sank behind the horizon and painted the sky in deep shades of orange and purple, the boy sat once again by the grave. His tiny frame shook with quiet sobs. He hugged his knees and pressed his forehead against them. The air was unusually still that day. No rustling leaves, no bird songs, no distant footsteps. Just silence. A silence so deep that even the boy noticed it. He whispered again, like he always did, "Mother, if you can hear me, please answer me. Just once." His voice cracked, echoing into the emptiness. And then, something strange happened. A sudden breeze brushed against his tear-stained face. It wasn't strong, just a soft, warm gust, but enough to make him lift his head. The boy blinked, startled. The trees swayed gently, though a moment before they had been still. The wind carried with it a whisper, a sound so faint he thought it was his imagination. But then he heard it again. "My child." The boy froze. His eyes widened. His heart raced. He looked around, searching. But there was no one. No figure, no person, only the grave before him. The whisper came again, carried on the wind, soft and tender. "My child, don't cry. I am here." The boy's lips trembled. His breath caught in his chest. Mother?" he stammered. And for the first time since she had left the world, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. The wind caressed his hair, like a mother's hand brushing gently over her son's head. The boy closed his eyes, and for a moment he could almost feel her presence. Tears streamed down his cheeks, but they were different now. Not just of pain, but of comfort. "I knew you could hear me," he cried. "I knew you never left me." The whisper replied, calm and soothing, like a lullaby in the night. "I never left my son. I am always with you, every tear you shed. I see every word you whisper. I hear. Your pain reaches me, and my soul prays for your peace." The boy reached out his trembling hand, as if trying to touch the air. "I miss you so much. Why did you leave me?" The wind grew gentle again, wrapping around him like invisible arms. "My time in this world was over, my child. But a mother's love never dies. Even in death, I am bound to you." The boy sobbed harder, clutching the soil of the grave. "I don't want to forget you, Mother. I'm scared I'll forget your face, your voice." The whisper responded, more firm now, yet still tender. "You will not forget. Because I live inside you. Every kindness you show, every good you do, every time you smile, you keep me alive. My son, promise me you will live, not in sorrow, but in strength." The boy nodded desperately. "I promise, but it's so hard. I feel so alone." The wind carried a soft sigh. "You are not alone. Whenever you feel lonely, come here. Speak to me, and know I will listen. My soul is closer than you think." At that moment, the boy lifted his face toward the darkening sky. The first stars were beginning to appear, twinkling softly above. For the first time in months, he felt a strange sense of peace. The grave was not just a place of loss anymore. It was a place of connection. That night, as he walked home, his steps were lighter. The world still seemed harsh, still lonely, but his heart carried a spark of warmth, because now he knew he was not forgotten. His mother's love was still alive, and somewhere beyond the veil of this world, her spirit was watching, whispering, guiding him. The wind that once felt cold and empty now felt like a friend, a companion, a messenger of love that death could not silence. The following days were different for the boy. Though the world around him was still filled with struggles, empty dinners, lonely nights, and quiet mornings, his heart carried a new strength. Every evening, he returned to the same place, sat beside the grave, and spoke. And each time, the wind would answer. It wasn't always with words. Sometimes it was just the gentle brush of air across his cheek. Sometimes the rustle of leaves when the world was still. Sometimes the soft glow of moonlight breaking through the clouds at just the right moment. But to the boy, it was enough. He knew she was there. One night, as the sky was heavy with clouds and a storm threatened to break, the boy clutched a small notebook in his hands. It was torn, the pages frayed, but inside he had written everything he wished he could tell his mother. He opened it and began to read aloud, his voice trembling. "Mother, today I was scared again. The other children laughed at me because I didn't have new shoes. They said I was poor and I didn't belong. I tried not to cry in front of them, but when I came home, I couldn't stop." His eyes welled up. The rain began to fall, slow at first, then faster, but he didn't move. Mother, sometimes I feel like giving up, like the world doesn't want me. But then, I remember your whisper. You told me I'm not alone, that your love is always with me. So I'll try to be strong. He closed the notebook, pressing it against his chest as the storm raged. His voice rose above the thunder. I promise, Mother. I will not let your love go to waste. I will live. I will be strong. I will make you proud. And then, something extraordinary happened. A powerful gust of wind swept across the graveyard, almost lifting the boy off his feet. The storm that had seemed wild and harsh a moment before now felt different. Calm within chaos. The boy felt warmth, as if invisible arms were holding him close. Through the storm, he heard it, clearer than ever before. My son, you are my strength. You are my pride. Do not let this world break you, for I am with you. Always, the boy sobbed, but they were no longer tears of despair. They were tears of release, of healing. For the first time since his mother's passing, he felt whole. The days turned into weeks, and slowly, the boy's life began to change. He still struggled, yes. He still faced loneliness, hunger, and ridicule. But there was a fire within him now. When he was mocked, he remembered his mother's voice telling him to stay strong. When he felt weak, he whispered into the wind, and the answer always came. Sometimes in a breeze, sometimes in silence, but always with comfort. He began to study harder at school. He worked small jobs to support himself, never complaining, never giving up. His mother's love had become his shield, his motivation. Years passed. The boy grew taller, stronger, wiser. And one day, as a young man, he returned to the grave once more. This time, he wasn't crying. This time, he wasn't broken. He knelt before the stone and placed his hand gently on it. Mother, I kept my promise. The wind stirred softly, carrying the faintest whisper, like a smile in the air. You have made me proud, my son. The young man closed his eyes, letting the tears fall, not of sorrow, but of gratitude. And as he stood, he realized something profound. His mother had given him the greatest gift anyone could receive. Not wealth, not possessions, but strength. The strength to face the world, to endure pain, to grow into someone who could carry her love forward. He walked away from the grave with a heart full of peace, knowing that though life would bring trials, he would never face them alone. For the bond between a mother and her child is eternal, stronger than death, stronger than time, a promise carved not in stone, but in love itself.